Okay, so very, very quickly, and we'll go over this in the software. The changes I find are most interesting for our clients. The blocking of historical transactions. You can now send automatic emails to your borrowers. There's a web portal for borrowers and investors. That's brand new. There's the document merge tool to create templates. It's widely improved. You'll see very well advanced. Electronic funds transfer for our friends in the US. We now have a partner called Intrix. We've been working for them for the last couple of years to get this up and running. And there are changes also for the Canada people too. So let's begin with looking at these changes first before we go on to this other page of what's new. So let's bring Margel over. We'll minimize this. Hold on just a second. How do we put end slideshow? And here we have the software. Okay, so first of all, blocking the historical transactions. This has been requested by our clients for quite a while. It's finally here. So to do this, you go to settings. It's the administrator settings. If we go here, see, users cannot edit transactions that are older than 0 days. I'll put this at 30 days, save, and this goes live. Now, if I open up this record, give it a few seconds to refresh. I open up this record, and you'll notice now, these used to be black lines. They are now grayed out, which means I cannot change anything. So the last changes I can do are in the month of November. Everything else is blocked. You can always override this feature if you give a user the permission to override, and you as administrator can always go back and change the number of days. That's the first thing. In terms of the alerts so what we call automatic emails, they can be sent by mail or SMS to mail or mail to SMS. If we go to reports and we look at the merge templates here, you'll notice that I have some templates for email. So this one, for example, payment in 48 hours. Dear John, this is a merge code. Please note that an automatic debit will be drawn from your account on this day for this amount. So again, these are merge fields, which you can enter with the right mouse click. Your last payment was this amount. Please make sure the funds are available. Otherwise, $25 will be charged or whatever with your phone number. That's one of them. There's also another one when emails have bounced. Oh yeah, but just before I go on that, this email is sent at the time you want. For example, you can send it at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. It would automatically go out, and I'll show you how you do this afterwards. The other emails, automatic emails, is when a payment bounces. So when you change a line from a paid payment to unpaid or a due payment to unpaid, as soon as you save it, as soon as you save your loan, the email will go out. You'll get a little message. So, dear John, please know that your last payment on December 15th was rejected. Your amount in arrears is blah, blah, blah. Please contact me as soon as possible and to take arrangements. So these are very useful things. You can also create other automatic emails based on line statuses. Okay, next is the web portal. I bring this across here. You'll notice it will be it's on the Margel website. Maybe eventually we'll put it, you'll be able to have it on your website, but we want to get the technology, we want to get more information on this. So better if we have it on our end. So the way it works, your clients, you will send an email to your borrowers saying, hey, you can now get instant information, instant information on your data. You'll create a username and password on the specific web page created for you. This, of course, would be your logo, the text, the colors are all adapted to your needs. So people log in with a username and password, and they go on here, and they get the instant information. This is really, really up to date as long as you update your information. And you define what's in here. So balance at current date, balance due principal. It takes a second to do these reports, and you can change it anytime. The next payment amount, the next payment date, and whatever else, and you can have home or whatever terms and conditions. So this can be very, very useful for both the borrowers And there's also a little portal, well, a portal for your investors per se. All right, so let's go on to the next. In the document merge tool now, this is used to create various templates for contracts, invoices, statements. It's been vastly improved. Take a look here. If I look at we can now create docx, which is a Word document. So this will show up eventually. Is this the right one? Let's give it a second. Okay, so this is my mortgage statement. And notice now how you have a lot more editing power on top. You can customize things as you want, insert images, the layout, the image, etc., display it, whatever. You can also select specific dates for which to report on. If I go here in the beta version, which is no longer beta really, you can choose to say, I want my invoices for the month of December, but I also want to report previous activity. So what happened in the previous month? I could have year-to-date information. So from very start of the year, January 1, up until the current date. And you can even report information from the very start of the loan. So how much interest was paid so far from day 0 up until a specific date. So those are very useful features. So I close this up. The electronic funds transfers now. In the US, we now work with a company called Intrix. Now let me bring this over here. No, this is the wrong one. Hold on a second. Too many PowerPoints are open up at the same time. So there's my Intrix. Okay, so with Intrix, the way it works, you create you contact Intrix to set up the account with them. Once they set up the account, they are a third-party processor, and they're located in California. So you get a vendor ID, an API key, a user code, and a password. That's that's you as a creditor. You would then enter or you can mass import the data for your banking information, description, the account type, the routing number, the account number, etc. Then you set up the actual loan per se, because you could say only half of my clients are on ACH, although ACH is the way to go compared to checks. So you would say, okay, activate the module. Here's my creditor and here's the account. Because your borrower, whoever this guy is, Daniel Barrett, he can have multiple accounts. So you'll say, I want to select the US bank one. And now let's go back to Marjo. If we go here and I go to how do we submit? Once we've set up the ACHs, we then say, okay, every month, every day, every week, it's up to you. I go to EFT. Show me all payments which will be coming up in the next couple of days or next month. I click on refresh. Of course, you could have hundreds or thousands that show up here. So I say submit. I want to keep a couple here. And I say submit. And now the file is automatically sent. The file was accepted by Intrix. Records will be updated. Okay, fine. We're all done. So So 2 pre-authorized payments or 100 or 1,000 pre-authorized payments were set, and we're good to go. So Intrix receives the file, and on the day the amount is due, so on January 1, automatically Marjo will change a due payment to a paid payment. We will assume it's paid. And then you can afterwards adjust the non-payments when you receive the non-payment report, which can take 48 hours approximately. And we never know exactly, nobody knows. It can bounce maybe 5 days later, but that's the exception. I think within 48 hours, you've got 90 some odd, 98% have bounced within 48 hours. You know better than I do anyways. There's also a preliminary analysis. What this does, it will, let me just pick up a file here. Where is my file? Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Let me go back here because I don't really, if we go on this screen here. So what this does really is the preliminary analysis will tell you which ones have been rejected. Within a few minutes, it'll say these guys have been rejected for some, maybe the bank account is wrong. And this is analyzed preliminary from before the actual transaction is taken. So If you were to click on it, there's a button that says submit. You wish to update the transactions, etc. So it's a pre-analysis of problem files. Then you can resubmit these payments afterwards. So that's it for this presentation. Let's go back to, oh yeah, for our friends in Canada, we have with Perceptech, we've added the option to get your rejected payments. It's not available yet in the US. Technology is a little different, but let me move this over. Let's get the Canadian version up here. Make it full screen. So in Canada, if I go to the EFT, I'll do my test transactions. So I go on the rejected transactions report. This is after the fact, after the payments have been taken from the bank accounts. So I go here and I say, download the report. Okay, I can, of course, the end date. I'll put this for yesterday. So these are all the reject. They wouldn't be in red for real because I have false data. So all these, if they're rejected, I click on apply, and automatically the paid payments, which we assume were paid, will now become unpaid, and the fees will kick in automatically if you had created special fees. So if unpaid, charge 25 bucks, this would automatically go in the system. So it saves a lot of time. You don't have to consult the Perceptech website anymore. It's all in here. So a lot of to and fro, which will be now eliminated. I know many of our clients have started using this and they really appreciate it. So that's it for the Canadian one. Now, maybe one more thing, an interesting thing for both US and Canada. In the electronic funds transfer, I'm able to say that a due payment becomes a paid EFT payment, or I can select how my due payment, what it becomes. An additional payment can become an additional payment here, or whichever. I messed up here when I set this up. But you can really say how you want to treat a due payment becomes paid, an additional becomes an additional payment, etc. It's a fun feature. Okay, let's go back to the presentation for our next changes. Okay, we also have mandatory fields. You'll see the record identifiers, and we'll look at all of these directly in the software. So back to Marjo. So mandatory fields, I find they're a pain personally, but they can be useful. You can go in settings, mandatory fields here. You activate the module and you say, I must enter the borrower's, well, of course, first name. People always forget to put in the Mr., Mrs., etc. So I want to make this compulsory. So you can set up compulsory fields for the borrower, for the loan itself. I didn't go into loan, but for the loan, for example, you could have a custom field which you say, I must enter this before I can save. What I find a pain is you cannot do anything until you save it. So if somebody's missing data which is not readily available, he'll have to enter this data before being able to save or before being able to compute the document, the loan. So I want to quit here. Here it's a little something. It's a little. It was annoying for some people. Where on the header of each window, you can now identify. I want to have the borrower's first name, last name, and other information if you want. So I say I want to have the borrower business name because I lend out to businesses, but I don't lend out to individuals. So I can say this and put a unique identifier or whatever. And every user customizes their header. And where does this show up? Very quickly. If I open up a record here, it shows up on the top here. Okay. Good. We have new line statuses. I open up a loan, one called interest charged. That's been up for a while, but I could charge interest here. Of course, you wouldn't have this many, but so interest charged. I can have interest paid also. So if you pay interest in advance, this can be done also. You can manage, this was asked for a client of ours. Did I add this? You can now have unpaid payments well in advance. So one of your clients calls you up and goes, listen, I'll pay next week, but I cannot pay in 2 weeks. So you're able to say that this is unpaid in 2 weeks, even if you have a due payment before that. So it's a special line status. Did I hide it somewhere? Or is it on top? Anyway, yeah, here it is. Due payment unpaid. Okay. You can now put colors on each line. For what reason, I don't really know. But you can go in here and you say, if you go on line color, I can choose a color and put a specific color on this line. So it can be useful. Okay. Bi-monthly payments. I go back to data and I'll say new record, clear results. If I have bi-monthly or twice monthly payments, I can go in here. Bi-monthly is actually every 2 months. So they're twice monthly. I can set them on the 1st and 16th. This has been in there for a while. This is new. So I can say I want payments on the 9th and on the 23rd. I'm not sure why I would do that, but you're able to do it now. Okay. In advanced, mostly for mortgages, I can have an interest adjustment date. What does this mean? Let's say my loan starts on December, today's the 19th, and my first payment will be February 1st. And it's a 60-month payment, a 60-month term loan. What the software will do, if you add this extra interest only payment, it will put a payment on January 1st that will pay only the interest. So I see this mostly in mortgages. It's called the interest adjustment date. Now for the creditor, this is new. If you have multiple creditors or even only one creditor in the database in your as your investors, you could give them a return of 8%, whereas you're charging 12%. So then you can use a mathematical equation that would give me 8 divided by 12 multiplied by the interest paid for this month. And this would be the revenue for your investors or for your investors. Okay. In terms of a cool little thing here, you can scan that documents directly in Margil. I believe most of you should know that you can attach documents. So if I go here, I've got these documents already attached. I can scan it in. You would have to ask your IT person to configure your scanner properly so that Margil recognizes the actual machine itself. And this is simply in Windows where you would specify this. Okay. Exit from here. There's also, oh yeah, I forgot to look at this one very quickly, a day count. We added a new day count called 3360U, not as opposed to 3360. We have both now. And it only does a change really at end of month in February. Big deal, but in some cases it might be useful for you for end of month payments. Okay, so we're getting there, by the way, so I won't save this. Now I'm going on to what we call the overnight tasks. This is particularly useful for larger databases. If I go to my tools, settings, overnight tasks. So I can create an automatic backup. So most of you, your IT persons will do the backups, but we don't always trust the IT people. So you can create your own backup wherever you want it, on a drive somewhere else, on the cloud or wherever. It can check the electronic funds transfers. So when you walk in the morning, some of you, with the larger databases, it takes a few minutes to update, to do all these, create the alerts, and then update the calculations. So this can be done at midnight. So I could say, recompute to-date data. I can generate the alerts, and I can check for EFT, electronic funds transfer. So guys with 10,000 loans or more, 5,000 loans, whatever, when it gets slow, you activate this and you'll see in the morning, it goes so much quicker. Because you should always close up Margil so they can do what it does when it opens up. And this is also how you send those emails. The emails, for example, the automatic emails, you could set up it's called the Windows Task Scheduler. And how it works, you click here and your IT guys can look into this. It's quite straightforward. These guys will set this up in 10 minutes or something. The emails would actually go out. You would do some transactions at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, whereas the emails, you could send them out at 8 o'clock in the morning. So you can specify the times you want these activities to take place at. Okay. Last change, which is a really nice change, is these headers for the main window. So you notice here it says patient name. This was actually for, I believe, a orthodontics clinics where these guys finance their patients. So they changed the header instead of calling it borrower name. They went to the user settings, and every user can customize this in the record summary window. So here, see, I changed it, or they changed it from borrower last name. This is the original description, to patient name. So you can do the same thing for anything. If you find this is way too long, borrower business, hey, I'll just put in here borrow like this. It's just shorter. Okay, and there we go. So that's it for the main changes. I actually have one more slide of main changes. I'm going to bring back our PowerPoint here. So this is the third slide and final slide for the changes in 4.4. You can now update payments this is again for larger clients with quite a few loans. You can update payments with an Excel sheet simply with an ID number, a date, and exact amount. So what this will do, if Margil sees the proper ID, the loan ID number, the proper date, and the exact amount, it'll change it from a due payment to a paid payment. What it won't do is if it's a day late, it'll say, hey, I don't know how to manage this, so please do it manually or through the post payment tool. Those of you who also import quite a few loans directly in the software, you can now include through Excel. You can include a co-borrower and a guarantor directly in your Excel sheet. We also, you'll notice that we created quite a few new fields for the reports. If you want to see all changes, really, go to the Margil website. It's in the release notes. You go to support and you go to the download center and you'll see the release notes. So there's a lot more detail in there than what I covered today. Many picky little things. Okay. Lastly, for what's upcoming in winter, I believe probably February or something, version 5.0, we're going to refresh our interface. It will not change the way you work. I despise having to learn a new interface. So we won't change that. We're just going to make it a bit more modern for you guys and harmonize some text, stuff like that. We've improved some mathematics behind it. One thing which was very annoying in versions before 5.0 is the first line, the first payment line, the date cannot be changed. Now you can change it. It was our reference date. We've improved the math behind it, so quite nice for that. The reporting will now become faster with what we call our black box. It's a nice tool for all the reports. For larger databases, you can now create your own queries. In the current version, you have to select the records. You sort the records in the main window. You then select the records you want to report on. You'll now be able to create queries and save these queries. I only want active reports which were created before 2015 or whatever. And these will always be the same queries which you'll be able to run with the regular reports. A cool thing for high volume, you will be able to, let's say you have a website where people, your potential clients, your potential borrowers fill out loan applications. You'll be able to import these through an Excel file or JSON files. They're in a pre-approval screen. So let's say you have 50 new potential clients today. You're only going to approve 5 of them. You'd have a list of these 50 and you'd say, okay, I approve this one. I have all the information available and I can approve him or reject his application or her application. A nice feature which I just discovered recently is the spreadsheets are now integrated into the reports. So you have 2 tabs, one which is the regular report, and the next tab over is actually a spreadsheet where you can play around with it directly in Margil. So really nice things. There's a new line status for those of you who pay principal without first paying interest. You'd have to go through the right mouse click beforehand and say, take what we call option 3. If you've been doing it, you know what I'm talking about. Now there's a new option called paid principal. So it says I will pay pure principal without first paying interest, the accrued interest. And there's, of course, much more coming up in 5.0. One thing I am also looking at is what we call a teller mode to easily enter information without having really the back-end system. So that's it for that. So my last presentation. So what's new in more detail? These are the release notes. Update to version 4.4. Really do it. This is the December version. margel.com/get. If you have questions or on the presentation or any kind of questions, you can call us or send support@margel.com. We'll maybe include these questions in our knowledge base anonymously. If you're in the US and interested in Intrix, you can contact Roger Aurora directly at Intrix. His direct phone number is 720-977-2000 or rarora@intrix.com. And that covers it for me. So thank you for being at the presentation. I want to wish you a very, very happy holidays, happy New Year, and we'll talk in January. I also encourage you, if you have, we do give training sessions, an hour, 2 hours as you wish, remotely. We also do on-site remote sessions. I know people really enjoy these. Once they've know the software well, then we actually do an on-site session. They usually last over a day, and people really enjoy these. So I encourage training. Training is how you learn the software properly.